Do you want movement like this?
What the
Then you have come to the right place.
But hey, don't take my word for it. I've impressed people like Temit, Grumpy, and CJ with my neon movement.
This video, I'm going to split neon movement into 6 parts.
Optimal keybinds, basic movements,
Advanced strafing,
camera movement, and then finally, tech and super slides. I also have my keybinds in the top right so you can see what I'm clicking and when I'm timing my jumps. Now the first thing is going to be optimal.
Blah, blah, blah. No one cares. Temit is way better.
Now for your optimal keybinds, you're going to want to bind your scroll wheel to jump, the other scroll wheel as your interact button. This will make it way more consistent to hit B-hops and it's just better in the long run. Now that you have your jump binded to scroll wheel, what you want to do is practice your timings by doing mini strafes and keeping momentum. Now you don't even need the strafe to keep full momentum. You can literally just do this and you can hear the hissing after you jump. That means you're at full momentum.
I'm out of here.
Now if you listen to this, this is not full momentum. That is. So now that you have your scroll wheel jump binded to something, you also want to bind the opposite scroll wheel to interact. And this will basically mean if you just scroll up and down, you can just bounce off like zipline very easy. I'll be going over more of this later on in the video, so make sure to stick around so you can see some like rope movement and different tech you can do with that. If you do struggle with anything in this video, I do actually have a Discord server now. It's in the top of my description, and we have neon coaches and myself helping all you guys out with my settings and tutorials. So now we're going to get into the basic movement section. The basic movement section basically compiles of directional strafing, how to use your movement in the right situations, and movement theory. Now first, we're going to get into movement theory. Movement theory is pretty much how movement works in Valorant. Now with movement theory, when doing directionals, you have 2 direction keys and 2 turn keys. Your movement key will be the direction you're going, which will be W and S, because you won't be looking left and turning and using A and D as your direction. You'll be using W and S. Now to put this in simpler terms, basically if you want to jump and turn left, you're going to have to use a direction key and a turn key at the same time, like this. If you do that without the turn key, it's going to look like this and it's not going to work. Now this is also the same for not using a direction key. When you combine these, you can strafe pretty smoothly and keep all your momentum going the different directions, hence why it's called a directional strafe. Now to practice directionals, I would find a nice clear open area like this area on Abyss, and basically just practice going back and forward between the areas and making sure you're keeping all your momentum. Now also find some objects and change your direction right as you go over. Now we're still on directionals, but we're going to go into a flashier directional strafe. Now what this is called a backward strafe, and all it is inverting what you just did. Now your direction keys will still be W and S, but now instead of just holding W and ASD, it's going to be S, ASD. Now if I want to turn left, I'm going to get my neon out, hold S and then hold A, like so. And it's pretty much just doing this, but just inverted. Now the next section is going to be rotational strafes. Before we continue, only a small percentage of you guys are subscribed, and I'm really trying to hit 100k by the end of the year, so any help is appreciated. Now this is where it gets a bit complicated. A lot of people struggle with rotationals, so I'm going to be giving a step-by-step on how to master them so you know when you're not doing it right and what you're doing wrong. So first we're going to go into focus strafing. Focus strafing is pretty much focusing on an object and strafing out this. Like so. This basically helps if, say, if this was an enemy and not the spike, you could rotate around them, backward slide, and kill them. You can also practice this by just jumping around walls, like this. Now, previously mentioned with directional keys, your directional keys were W and S when doing directionals. Well, rotational, it is A and D, like this, and your turn keys are going to be W and S. Now this pretty much means you want to be focusing on the X-axis more this way.
Gotta go.
So as you can see, I'm holding A and D longer than I'm holding W and S. And I'm just using my S and W just to keep my momentum. Now to practice this, I would just hold A and just keep trying to turn around a pivot like so. And then you can also switch directions. This is also helpful for doing sideways strafe like this. This is pretty much just making the most distance you can with a strafe. Now, with how much you're changing your rotation and directions, you're going to need to have smooth transitions. Now, if you focus on my keys whilst I'm doing rotationals, you can see I'm pretty much just only turning and changing my keys when I'm turning, like so. So you need to make sure your keys are nice and smooth and not to rush any movements. Now, once you think you've got the hang of rotationals, I want you to try the figure of 8. Now, the figure of 8 is a movement course I made, where it's pretty much just rotating yourself on the spot and keeping full momentum. A more clearer way to show and practice this is by rotating around these on Lotus, like this. Like so. The way to learn this is obviously with your new turn keys, you can learn to rotate around these, and once you rotate around this, you rotate around this one, and change it to just focusing on this pivot point, like that. Now don't worry if you can't do the figure of 8. It's a pretty niche move I don't see many people being able to pull off, especially in game against people. But it's just to show that you know how to do it, and you also know that your movement is easy. Now, one of the most important things to rotationals and the figure of 8 and pretty much anything in Neon movement-wise is going to be your camera movement. Your camera movement is just how you move your mouse. Now, the first step I'd say is you don't want to be going up and down whilst you're strafing, like doing like all this, because it just throws you off. And when you start to like slide, you're going to be like aiming at the floor. So you want to keep it on the x-axis as smooth as you can at a certain area. I usually like go as low as this, but this is just because it looks good. And then when I slide, I look up like that. Now, onto the thing that most people ask about me is how do I look so robotic whilst I'm doing these movements? Some people think it's controller, some people think it's a very slow sense, but it's actually neither. I play on 0.49, which is a pretty high sense for a glass pad on 800 DPI. And all I do is I tense my wrist and aim with a snapping motion like this. So pretty much just every time I'm about to turn, I will turn my mouse as well as my keys. So when you go from jumping here to here, what I do is I tense up at the midpoint like this to this. But I would recommend to not do this because this will guarantee give you carpal tunnel over time if you do it for long periods. I actually have carpal tunnel, so I'm pretty much just doubling down and sticking to this. You can also do fluid arm movements like this, where it's all nice and smooth and not as snappy, where it's more like just nice smooth movements. You're keeping your momentum and you're not destroying your arm like I am. Now, a good way to practice this is by doing sideways strokes and just snapping back and forth like this, very small micro adjusts, and then slowly widening your swipes like this until you're getting to the point where you're using up pretty much the most x-axis you can while sliding, whilst jumping. Now finally, I'm going to get into the combos. Now, obviously there is a lot of different types of rotations. There's this one, like so, which just is kind of like a half rotation in my opinion, because you're going back to a directional for a second. Like so. Then you've got full rotationals. Like so. Which this gets you way further on the x-axis, but it's taking way longer for you to get there. Now what I like to do is incorporate sideways into it, like so. Because you're basically getting the best out of both worlds in directionals, rotations, and getting the most distance on the x-axis. There's also combos you can do where you're like going from a directional, turning it into a rotational, and then going straight to a directional, and then you can do it backwards. But I'd say combo-wise, sideways B-hops are going to be your friend. Another little, I wouldn't say combo but move, is a heli strafe, and this is pretty much just spamming your mouse whilst holding two keys, like this. And you keep full momentum, and it's quite annoying to hit you when you do it. Now finally, we're going to get into the Neon tech section. Now, this just revolves around stuff that not many people know you can do with Neon. Now, Neon obviously used to have 2 slides, and you could combine them by sliding, doing that, and sliding again. Now, what you need to do is Alt, slide, and then slide again, like this. And then obviously,
Go, go, go.
you can do that. Next, we've got the door boost on Lotus. This basically just means you can get boosted further, and you don't need to do this with any... Now, you don't need to do this with Neon, you can do it with any agent. But with Neon combined with her jump ability, so around here should be fine. We've seen Neon can also jump to places other agents can't really get to, like on top of here. Now we're going to get into the super slides. Now for Lotus, there's actually 2 super slides on the same area.
Here.
There we go. And all that is just looking around the middle, crouching, and then just sliding like this. There's also a new and better way on Lotus. So come to this corner and hold W and A. Crouch, and then let go of A, but still hold W, then uncrouch. Then you just want to tap your way until you're in line with somewhere around here or here. Crouch again. Make sure it's a full crouch so you've been blipped up. Look at here, and then click A and then W to slide. Like so. And as you can see, you get boosted up all the way in the end.
Gotta go.
And you can make it onto this box. Now, if you guys did find this useful, I also have a Discord server where it has a ton of coaches that are here to help and also love doing Neon as well. It's just a great community in my opinion. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100k by the end of the year. And yeah, peace.